Welcome back to Dev Game Club. I'm Brett Duville, your host. Each series we approach a game, and this set of podcasts we're doing Hitman 2 Silent Assassin. I'm joined by my co-host, a man who dreams of playing goalie for FC Copenhagen,
Tim Longo.
Hey Tim, how you doing?
Good.
Did you catch the FC Copenhagen?
Very nice, yeah.
Thank
Very
you.
good
Thank you.
reference.
I read the newspapers. For those who haven't been playing along but are listening to us, thanks for joining us. In any case, but the newspaper prop in the game, anytime you find a newspaper, if you go down and look at it, somebody on the dev team must have been a fan of the soccer club FC, I assume football club, FC Copenhagen, or Copenhagen, as I guess it would be in Danish. And yeah, so you find those dotted about in different places in the game, even in Russia. It's
well,
amusing.
there's some crates, right, that are also marked with that at one point. Your stuff's hiding behind it?
That's right. In fact, in the very first mission that we're going to play tonight, we're playing starting from Tubeway Torpedo, which is, I believe, the 5th mission, up through Shogun Showdown, which is the 10th mission. And yeah, in that very first mission, FCK is marked on a crate to let you know where to find your cache of stuff that you need. And I have a bone to pick with you about that, Tim.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Right off the bat.
I can see many bones coming my way when it comes to...
Oh, boy. Here's one.
Okay.
I almost wish I could just play this clip back for you, and maybe I'll go do this in post. But on the last podcast, you said, I usually don't even pick up the caches.
I usually never pick up the cache that they give you. That's right.
You remember saying that, Tim?
I do, yes.
You remember saying, for Silent Assassin and the different sorts of levels you're trying to achieve, you don't really need that most of the time.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I went all the way through Tubeway Torpedo. So let's just set the stage. So Tubeway Torpedo has you infiltrating Russia to kill a general and get an agent that he's interrogating, out of jail, basically.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And so you make your way through these crowded streets and the sewers and everything. You get to this building. It's very tense. It's great. You go down 2 levels of elevators. You make your way down to the second sub-basement, and you get the guy. You kill the mark, and then you come back out, and he won't get on the elevator to get out of the building. And do you know why that is? Do you know why that is, Tim?
Because you don't have the bomb.
Because you need to pick up a bomb at the very beginning of the level in the cache.
Interesting.
You said you mostly don't pick up.
Yeah, so that in that particular level, I realized that I better pick up the cache. Okay, I have no defense. But just to be specific, my statement was usually, to be clear, and I mean throughout the series of games, in the older ones, I am recalling now that they did require you to
don't trip while you're backpedaling.
Yeah, okay, all right. I just did. I will make no more definitive statements when we're talking about one of my favorite series.
So that was pretty good. I mean, I will say I did overall really enjoy that level. I enjoyed it a little less when I had to do it a second time.
Right. Well, we can laugh about it now, right? Like it's enough time has passed. Not really. So when I noticed that there was actually an objective in the briefing screen that said to pick up the cache, then I realized that they're forcing you to do it. So
gotcha.
That was my clue, and I did the same thing to myself because I didn't go all the way to the end, but I got halfway there, and I realized I think I probably had gotten to the first level, and then I had realized that the marker on the map for your cache was still flashing, and I was like, why are they still? And then I went to look at the briefing and realized that that bomb is probably going to be critical. So I started over.
Yep. Yeah, it turns out that is critical path. I thought I was just going to be able to shoot my way out. Mm-hmm. And the guy followed me. I made my way all the way back through the level. I killed just about everybody because it was, everybody was in my way. Like you couldn't just walk through areas with this guy behind you. Yeah. So I had to kill all tons of guards. way down on health. And I was like, okay, cool. Now there's just like 4 guys. That's all that's left, on the next floor. And he wouldn't get in the elevator. He just stood there.
That's interesting, and that's how they chose to script that because, there's no reason. I guess it's just a random script that they chose to lock him there because he could have gone all the way to the wall at the end and totally, screwed you. But you know what I mean? Like, why stop at the elevator? Because there's no cause and effect to that.
Yeah, there was no. It was a little strange. I mean, you walk up, you get in, and on the floor below, he just like it's scripted to when you get in, he gets it.
Yeah.
But it is that is overall, I think, a really kind of cool level. I like the feel of it because it's very, very tense.
Yeah.
You have to kill a guard somewhere to get his uniform so that you can make your way through this Russian headquarters down into the basement. And it's funny. The first time I did it extremely well, I killed like 1 guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into the sewers and I made my way there and I climbed up this thing and hopped down and like tensely making my way past different people, hiding behind crates, get into the building. Everything's going well. I don't have to kill anybody, even getting all the way down into the basement. Except for, I think, 1... No, not even that. I didn't kill anybody except for the 1 guard. And then, of course, the general. And then I couldn't get out.
Man, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So, another couple of things that popped up in this level, which I don't remember in the first game how much, if they introduced... I'm sure they introduced some of this stuff, but... This was the first level where lighting actually could really be used effectively if you wanted it to be. I don't know if did you shoot any light bulbs out when you were going
I did
there?
Not. That didn't even occur to me. So where did you do that?
So I would do it occasionally. I had a pretty good run as well, but I would do it occasionally when I wanted to hide a body where I thought somebody might find it, like down a hallway or something. And then I shot the lights out around one of the doors that I was going to pick. Excuse me, because cameras were focused on it before I had taken the server out. Excuse me. Did you take the servers out to turn all the camera security systems off, or did you just kind of go down by them?
No, I just went down there and I was in my uniform. I ended up the first time through. I got through to that final door and picked the lock, and got in without anybody seeing me. So I went all through that whole building.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Without anybody noticing. I timed getting past the last guy. The next time I did it, because I basically had to start from the very beginning, I actually had to kill some of those guards downstairs, right before the interrogation room, because one of them just was turned towards the door and I couldn't get past him ever.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it was different and he never moved. I really don't know what happened. I think that's part of the jank of this game is that sometimes the simulation snags. Like, probably 2 guys were trying to get to a door and one got bumped and now he's off his path and so he doesn't do his thing or whatever. It felt like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's times
just got stuck and, didn't turn. Like he had the prior times that I had played. So that was a little weird. But other than that, it was fine going through it again. It wasn't a huge deal because I actually found that really kind of tense. It was like, I don't know, it was like a James Bond movie or something where he's in a place where he shouldn't be, and he's just kind of moving through it with a disguise. It definitely it had that kind of feel.
Yeah, I mean,
really appreciate.
Walking down the hall in your uniform, or down in the basements, with the pretty nice lighting for the time. And I actually made a note that the music was quite good and tense in this section too. Once you got down below ground, really
I would agree. And it was sort of Russian inflected.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very it's a quality score. We haven't talked a lot about the score. I think we did mention last time that Jesper Kid is like the first credit you see in the whole game, but I can sort of see why. It's really itself a character in the game in a way. The music really feels present, not oppressive, but just very present. You're right there.
Sorry.
Nobody behind you with a fiber wire?
Yeah, somebody's got me. Sorry, got a frog in my throat. Tried to mute, but anyway.
So I really like that level. And I was a little less thrilled with kind of exiting the way we did, kind of blowing the wall out and all that stuff. That was a little bit much, because then it was a firefight in the tunnels, and I was running, but I couldn't let the guy die. I mean, and you get lost down there in the sewers.
It's interesting. Once once I blew the wall open once, I kind of watched. I went in and kind of failed on purpose to watch to see where they were going to run. And then the second time I did it, I was able to run to the exit without a firefight. I just had enough time. So if you timed it right, it looked like you could do it. But yeah, the interesting thing, going back a little bit to some of the cool mechanics that pop up throughout the series that I think they leveraged, like I mentioned, the lighting in this one, a couple of the ones that they added in to this game, where I think they started really finding their groove on what this series was going to be. And the lighting one was always interesting to me because there's actually quite a few lights. And to your point about like getting below ground, if you're going for a complete no kill, which I didn't do, I got a professional in this one, but you can use the lights to get pretty far. And there's actually a officer's uniform on the first level behind a lockpick door.
Oh, interesting.
That you can find and pick up. Or actually, there's one upstairs too in the garage before you go down the first elevator in the side room with the telephone. So you can daisy chain your way around and use the lights even if you don't have a uniform down below, and the cameras won't pick you up. But the trick is that you kind of are limited on ammo. So if you actually go after all the lights, there's an interesting resource decision you have there. If you're using your silenced, pistol, which is what I always bring. And so you will eventually run out if you go after every light.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, one of the questions I sort of had for you about the series is whether, you think of it somewhat as a simulation game, but I also think of it as a pretty heavily scripted game. Mm-hmm. In terms of things like patrol paths and I don't know, just sort of events that happen and things like that. And so my question to you is, do you think your pleasure from this game derives more from its systems or more from its very cleverly calibrated scripting?
So for me, I would say it's a bit of a combo, but it's definitely more about the systems. And I think they get way better at this later in the series. As the series goes on, I think they rely less. And this is a general statement, which I probably shouldn't be making again, but they rely less and less on scripting. And replaying this one as we're going through, I'm actually reminded about how many kind of binary things will happen that you have to have happen to progress, which kind of always, those are the levels I usually like the least, right. Because it feels like I can't play the way I want to play, obviously. Right. And there are a couple ones like that where, in this level, when we get to the interrogation room and you're watching the interrogation, which I think is the only way to do that. That's how you did it, right?
Yeah, both of the other doors are locked. I couldn't find a key.
Yeah, I couldn't either, and I didn't remember there being one.
As far as I can tell, this is sort of a guns blazing,
Yeah, and that's what frustrates me, right? I feel like there should be other options there, and I feel like later as the series goes on, they wouldn't put you in that sort of situation as often. Although Absolution definitely there's definitely a lot more linearity to that game, which some of its criticism is coming from. But for the interrogation room, I still would try to leverage the systems as much as I could. So, for instance, I broke the glass, but did it from an angle so he wouldn't see me when I broke the glass, and fired at him. And so he went to an alert state, but he didn't know why the glass broke, which is obviously ridiculous because the glass just broke. But I knew
sudden change in pressure.
Yeah, I knew that the AI wouldn't be obviously smart enough to do anything that reactive. Or I was kind of hoping he would leave the room, and maybe that's how you get the door unlocked. But anyway,
interesting. Yeah.
He didn't turn around, or actually, when you break the glass, he turns his back to you, and so I was actually able to stealth, shoot him with a silenced weapon, and not have a firefight with him. And then another example of the thing that I hate, when they do this is I couldn't figure out how to get through the window for the longest time. It turns out there's just that one hotspot.
It's a very narrow hotspot. Yes.
Yeah. So that was frustrating. I went back out. I ran around the room. I was like, okay, maybe now I can find the key, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was like,
I did the same thing. I assumed that maybe one of those guards that I shot had it, in that other room nearby, like that they were monitoring and maybe they had the key. And I kind of came to the same conclusion. In fact, one of the times I did it, because I went out, I then alerted the guards, and then I had to shoot a bunch of guys. I mean, it was just kind of a mess from that standpoint. Yeah, and also that's a script that section of that level ends with a scripted cutscene as well, where a guard comes running up, as you go up the elevator, and hits an alarm on the wall, which is not.
Oh, I didn't have that happen.
Really?
No.
As you go up from the second basement back up to the first basement, when I got in the elevator with the guy I'm helping escape, there was a cutscene that played where somebody ran up and hit a button on the wall. A guard ran up and hit a button on the wall as I was rising up in the elevator.
Was it the one that was sitting at the table?
Well, they were all dead. So that was kind of my confusion. Oh. Like, I had killed everybody. And so then I have this cutscene, and I'm like, well, this shouldn't happen because none of these people, there's no guards on this floor now to do this. So it felt like a scripted bit of story. I'm surprised you didn't get that.
I wonder if it's related to the server room, because I took the servers out, and so the whole security system was off.
Maybe.
That could have been it.
Maybe. Well, yeah, because then that sort of makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
I did not take out the server. I didn't go through the server room. I figured there'd be cameras and guards, and I just went around it.
Yeah. I don't think
that worked well for me.
You definitely didn't need to. The only reason I did was because I wanted to pick that one lock that had cameras looking right at it, and every time I tried, it would alert. The guards, and so I wanted to experiment. So I took the servers out, and then all of the cameras go red. Another thing I wanted to mention that I don't think I'm crazy on this, but when I took some of the lights out, I believe the camera, the feed on the monitors in the security room actually reflected the lights being out in those areas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I was actually pretty impressed by that kind of cause and effect there. I still wasn't sure what to really do with those guys at the security centers, like if I had to care about them or not. I assume if you took all of them out, then nobody's there to monitor the cameras, so you're probably safe or something, but I didn't bother with them.
Yeah, I didn't bother with them either, except for at one point, because I was trying to leave the building the way I came in with the agent, I did have to kill everybody. But at that point, by the time I got to those guys, I had killed all the other guards anyway. So right. I only had a handful of guys who were, left in that room, monitoring different sorts of communications. I got a hired gun on this level.
Oh, okay.
I assume means I killed more people than I needed to. I certainly felt like I did, although I did try to avoid that as much as possible. I ended up killing the 4 guys in the basement. And I'm not sure that I needed to be honest. Well, like I said, I had that scripting. I had that guy who was just kind of like stuck. He was looking the wrong way, and I just finally gave up and just killed them all because there was once you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. And then I ended up having a bunch of guards run past me. I hid in a room so that they could all run past me. Like, I love that stuff. And it depends where you kill guys, where that happens and things like that. So like one time I was playing, I think maybe the last time I played the one where I actually got the rating, I ended up killing a guy right outside the door that I was hiding in, and so two or 3 guards were just hanging out there, like, where's what caused this? So I did appreciate that. Like I do think, like for me, I think the sort of calibrated scripting and like the tension that the scripting builds is really what works for me. Like the intersection of patrols and like timing and figuring those things out. I think for me that works really, really well. But I will say that the systemic aspects of the AI are really, really positive for me. Like I just love things like we talked about last time, where the information, doesn't kind of instantaneously move around. There are systems in place, like you have to go to a radio to communicate with another guy or whatever. I mean, just all of those sorts of things. Sometimes that buys you time, so you can take out a guy before he can do that. Or like I said here, where there was a simple cause and effect. I left a dead body, and that's where they stood around, looking to figure out what happened. So I did appreciate all of that quite a bit. I will say, though, I wonder, have you managed to get any Silent Assassin rankings yet?
No, I haven't still. I'm being cautious of my time, so because I want to go back and try to get a couple. I've gotten professional, I think, on everything but the last mission that we played today, which I'll talk about later.
Okay. Well, I did.
Oh, you did?
I went back and played Anathema.
Nice. Tell me about that.
So I wanted to know, what was involved, and it was a significant. I figured that was probably one of the simpler levels we'll have.
Yeah,
it is the first level. I figured, okay, I'll start there. I'm probably not going to go play any others to try to achieve it.
That's good. You did it for at least one, though.
Yeah, I wanted to know what it was. What was involved, and for me, what was involved was a lot of watching. I just sat there with the binoculars and figured out where people were going to be. A fair amount of trial and error. Because, so the way I ended up doing it, so remember this is the villa with the dawn that we talked about last time. It's basically the first hit in the game. And so I went down the hill to that door that's in the side that's unguarded. And a guard actually comes out that and starts peeing in the bushes like we talked about. There's always peeing in the bushes. So I gave him the anesthetic, and I got his jacket and his outfit. And then I went in through the basement, up through the kitchen to the top floor. Now, what I had hoped to be able to do was go out onto a railing and cross over to the Dawn's side of the house, but that didn't work out. So it took me a lot of fiddling. I figured I could probably make my way to where that ladder was.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the ladder and get onto the roof.
I had found the ladder when I was originally playing, but I found that when I would get up there, one of the upper level guys would see me, the shotgun guys.
Yeah.
And so I think that was like a timing and patrol route thing. But I could see that they weren't on the map, so I could see they were down by the pool. So what I did instead was I went out onto a balcony, and there's a ledge. And you can make your way on that ledge around to that same rooftop. But it takes so much less time. You don't have to go all the way around the villa. There aren't a lot of guards looking at you. It felt a little hacky. It's not a very wide ledge.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to even find that. But there's an opening in the ledge. And because I was thinking I would make my way over to where he was swinging the golf club, that was kind of my thinking was I'm going to go and make my way there. Here's a gap in the ledge. Maybe a gap in the balcony. Maybe this is the way I can do it. So I did. I made my way out there, and it took a lot of tries to actually be able to do it. The Dawn goes back and forth from his bedroom to this room where he receives the flowers and things like that. And guards come and go up there. So it was a lot of kind of getting it. Once I got up there, I had to save. I just kind of sat there, crouched, or in stealth mode, since crouch is not a toggle. So I just sat there and I waited. I'd wait, and a guard would come out. A couple guards were there, and I was like, oh, okay, gotta wait for those guys to go back. And I'd look at the map. Okay, I kind of went back and forth, and then finally I managed to get onto that balcony behind that room, go in the far door, and choke out the Dawn.
Nice.
And then go all the way back out through the basement, open the door, and go back out entirely out of the level. Luckily, the guard that I had dragged that guard back into the compound, but kind of out of the way. He never woke up, so I don't know if I did it fast enough or whatever. But
nice.
It was pretty good. I can see the appeal of that. I'm a guy who I think needs more, HUD support, or as we were talking about last time, just sort of feedback let me know when things are going on. And I was thinking a little bit about like the stealth differences between this and, and Thief or Metal Gear,
Sure.
or even like Mark of the Ninja, right? And those are games that have lots of information for you in different forms, right? In Thief, you've got a life meter, or a light meter rather, so you know your fear and shadow. And in Metal Gear, you can see their radar cones and that sort of map in the upper corner. There's a ton of information that's available to you in Mark of the Ninja. So it's kind of like those are things that I really like in the systems to tell me.
Yeah, it's one of the main areas, like I think we talked about this last time, but one of the main areas of criticism that the early Hitman games, and I'd say even probably even up through Blood Money, even though Blood Money's probably my favorite one right now, and I haven't played the new one yet, but there's still not a lot of good feedback on that stuff. Other than the map tends to be pretty effective, and a lot of stealth games don't give you that much information. And I think the map is actually a clue that I don't know. Hopefully, we get to talk to somebody about this, but I don't know how intentional it is. But the map for me is kind of a design clue that they're making a declaration on how they want people to play this game. And I mentioned last week where a friend of mine from Crystal Dynamics, Noah Hughes, who's a really quite brilliant designer, he always jokingly would call the Hitman games, murder puzzles. And
right.
When you give the player that much information in a map form, it really is about pattern recognition and figuring out timing of things and where to go. And they tell you where they have the flashing exclamation points on the map, so you know where the hotspots are. And so they're giving you all the pieces of the puzzle. You're just not sure how to put it together. And versus a Metal Gear where it's very much moment to moment stealth,
right.
and Thief as well. So I think that's a differentiator for me that, and I'm kind of like analyzing this on the fly, by the way, that why I like these games as well as the other stealth games and consider them different.
Yeah, I mean, I did come to appreciate that, and maybe we should move to talk about the party level, invitation to a party at an embassy, because that's a level where I started to really feel my way with the map, and it happened for a very particular reason. So, at the beginning of this level, you're back, you're entering this area, I guess in East Germany, maybe, I don't know, wherever you are. I think it's East Germany.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking.
Spetsnaz. I think you're at the East German embassy or something like that. And you're trying to kill the last of these generals that you've been after. And you can either try to get an invitation. There are some doorways you can get in. You're not allowed. If you go in the main gate, you're not going to be allowed to have weapons. Your goal is to kill this general and get his briefcase.
I can't wait to hear how you did this one. By the way, as a quick aside, before you continue, these are my favorite kinds of Hitman levels. These ones that are sort of in these complete establishments that are all kind of very cyclical and circular in their level design. But continue.
Okay, so I ended up having to play this twice because I had this issue when I got in the first time. I think I hadn't saved, actually. I just kind of forgot to save. And so I went all the way through and then got killed. And the ambassador in this level, he's taken this briefcase from this Russian general and is putting it in a safe. So I go in. What I did was I choked out a waiter at the beginning who was having a smoke right by where I came in. I'm like, oh, cool, that'll come in handy. Choked him out, got his uniform, went and got my gear, because now I'm going to those caches. Thanks very much, Tim. And I went to a side door.
I don't think I got the cache in this one.
Yeah, of course not. Picked a lock, got in, and then just kind of suavely made my way into the party. And I'm like, okay, this is great. And it says like, I went and I'm like, okay, I don't know where I have no bearings. So I went down a stairway into the basement just to get out of out of field of view of anybody and out of anybody's path. And I'm just like, I'm going to sit here and kind of figure out what's going on this level. I was like, okay, I'll be patient. I'll do all these simulator things that Tim wants me to do. And for whatever reason, I got killed in that one. But I was like, okay, so the guy's going to get the briefcase. For my second try, the guy's going to take this briefcase and going to bring it to this office on the first floor in the front on the left. Perfect. So I can go straight there and get myself set and, shoot the ambassador, get his combination. Like I had figured all this stuff out just from futzing around, kind of guns blazing a little bit. Open the thing, get the thing, all that stuff. I'm like, this is great. So I have to start over. But I basically do all of that again. And I go and I hide in that room and I wait for the ambassador to show up in a room next door. I'm looking through the keyhole. And I get the little alarm. The safe is open. And I can't see the guy.
What? And
so I look on my map.
Oh, I know.
And now he's in a different room. He's decided to put the briefcase somewhere else. Because that's... I'm like, what? So I don't know if the game is scripted to know, okay, the player has already done this and knows he's going to go here, or if it picks randomly.
So wait, you're saying he had gone...
He went to a different safe location. There are 4 safes in this embassy, and he went to a totally different one. But I didn't just replan. I didn't just restart and go and do that. So I just followed him around. I followed him back upstairs the second time he went up. And when he went to that room, I shot him with my silenced pistol and did everything. So it finally clicked a little bit where it had all the things that I wanted it to have. Like, okay, I've gotten here and I know to refer to the map. Like I was able to do the improvisation that was missing for me last time.
Yep.
And a lot of that was just because there were more places where I could just sit and hide, and wait. Like there weren't people coming out in every room. And, there was an easy way in that didn't require going through guards. Like there was, I didn't need to know a lot of systems to do some of this stuff. And so just getting to the point where I could start using the systems and especially the map was a lot easier for me. And then I just kind of suavely took the briefcase, evaded a guard for a while. He was chasing me all over, and I would hide and go evade him. And I kind of got him trapped on the first floor in the front half of the house. And I went back around and through the party to kill the general and make my way out. So I did very well. I got an expert rating on that. I probably killed a few more people than I needed to, including non-combatant because I killed the waiter at the beginning. But it was fun. I liked that a lot. Having that moment of oh crap, he's not where I thought he'd be, was really rewarding.
Yeah. It's so awesome. It's some of my favorite, I think all of my favorite stories are the improvisation stories where you feel, and I mean, I maybe mentioned this last time. It's not like I have some fantasy fulfillment that I want to kill people and be a hitman. I mean, don't get me wrong, but there's the fantasy fulfillment.
No, I know if I did it, it would be more like No More Heroes.
Yeah, right. Like
some kind of idiot kid. That'd be basically how I would actually turn
stumbling around. Yeah. It'd be a comedy from the 80s. But the fantasy fulfillment for me of that, knowing the game well enough and being proficient enough, but also knowing, like you said, the level enough to be able to improvise and still succeed. And especially if you improvise and still get a silent assassin, which I still haven't done on the first run, but that can occasionally happen and you just feel amazing. You feel like such a badass when you put all those pieces together and still make it out. So what did you do with the other agent, the other enemy agent? Did that ever come into play for you in this one?
He did not. He did in my first playthrough. He's actually what killed me.
Okay.
Because he was basically following the ambassador around.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the second playthrough, when the briefcase wasn't on the first floor, he didn't. So I just followed the ambassador up the central staircase, dressed as a waiter, just and he'd look back at me every once in a while, and I just kind of stop and maybe go over to the wall, I just kind of, just standing here looking if there's any glassware to pick up. Don't mind me. And then I've just, followed him and went into that side room. Again, every like room that had a safe had a side room next to it. So you could go in through there and then see the guy, and like I could enter up and come up behind him. I usually use the pistol, but the silenced pistol, but yeah. And then, I didn't get a better rating, I think, both because I killed that waiter, and then when I killed the general, I just shot him in the hallway once I came out of the main party room, and a maid saw it. And like at that point, I was like, I'm done. I want to get out of here. So I just shot him and ran out because everybody chased from the party room. And so it worked out really well. A lot of fire was sent my way as I was leaving, but I exited out the way I came. And yeah, it was anything but silent. So yeah, what did you do?
Yeah, so I saw on the map that they had the exclamation points in each of the offices, but I wasn't sure what it meant. So now I know. And that's actually a theme throughout the series where they will do that occasionally, where they will have some sort of scripting, chain occur if you, I don't know. So he went to the same safe for me each time I played. So I don't know if it's based on whether you've gone there or not, or if it's random, but luckily he went to the same place every time because my whole route kind of was built around him going to that same one. So yeah, I took the waiter out in the beginning and got his stuff. I think he might've had a key on him as well. I went into a lower door, maybe the same one you went into, and I went in through the garage. Is that?
Oh no, definitely not.
Okay.
No, for me, there are two side doors. One close to the water and one on the far side, and I went to the far side.
Okay, so I went through that one, went through the garage, which goes into the kitchen. I picked up some champagne glasses, and I don't know why, but I didn't use them. But I have a feeling that maybe, as a waiter, you can hold them, and pretend you're a waiter. You also find chocolates. I don't know if you pick those up.
Yeah, if you go to the cache, there's poison in it.
Ah, okay. So that's what you could use it for. Yeah. So you can poison the.
I never had an opportunity. Like I didn't find the kitchen, so I never had an opportunity to use the poison.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, I could. Like my initial thought was, I see how this is going to go. I'm going to be this waiter. Once I saw I had the poison, I'm like, okay, and I'm going to poison the general by giving him this, in his drink, and perfect. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
It was not to be for me, and nor for you, but between the two of us, we figured out what it was for.
Yeah, I figured there would be poison someplace, but I didn't get my cash. So, and I guess maybe the chocolates you find in the safe, I could have maybe poisoned those too, perhaps. But anyway, up to the kitchen, let's see, you go upstairs there and you kind of end up sort of in the back of the foyer. And then I basically walked through the main party. And this is, again, like I mentioned before, anytime a mission is generally taking place in like one structure, like a house like this, or like Anathema in the first mission, I just love those because you really get to know the level really well and everything. Right. And there's a lot of, like I said earlier, circular routes where you can hide in various places and you can cut people off and you can redirect yourself very, very easily. A lot of the other levels we played in this episode had a lot of linear sections where you kind of had to commit and go forward. There wasn't a lot of options. But anyway, so I figured out a timing where I would come out of the foyer, walk through the party, follow the general, take him out with my silenced weapon, hide him really quickly, keep walking, and the ambassador was just walking into the safe room at the same time, so I had the timing down pretty good, and then would do the same thing you did, kind of sneak up behind him. I usually used my pistol as he was putting it in, and then if you pick up, I guess what happens is if you pick up the briefcase quickly enough, once you do, the other agent will flee, because I guess he knows you have it, which I don't know how he knows, but once you have the briefcase, he seemed to leave.
Really? So he didn't for me.
He stayed in the party.
Yeah, he was down. So this second time I played, he was down in the room where the party was going on with the piano and all that stuff and all these guests. And I actually walked down through that room past him with the briefcase.
Oh, that's
in my
hilarious.
hand. I just walked right by him.
Oh,
and, of course,
okay.
The alert's kind of going up and down, and then I made my way across that room to where the general was, because they were on opposite ends of the house. So I had come down a back stairway, made my way into the party, walked nonchalantly through, and then as soon as the doors, with the briefcase, and as soon as that door was closed behind me, the general came out of the room, and I shot him, and the maid flipped out because she came right out of the room right afterwards.
So that's interesting. So I noticed, at least with my pattern, every time I'd pick the briefcase up out of the safe, that the other agent would hightail it out the front door. I wonder if it's maybe because I shot the general first and then got the briefcase or something like that. I don't know. So that ended up being the pattern for me. So then I basically nonchalantly walked through the foyer again, walked back down through the kitchen, because that was the route that I knew, out through the garage. But then the cool thing, and the reason that I wanted to mention the other agent fleeing, which, by the way, the concept of competing with other hitmen or agents is a theme throughout the series, which is pretty cool as well, by the way. It creates a lot of good surprises in other games. But anyway, and then so I get out, everything's cool. I'm like, I'm doing fine. I got a couple almost alerts from some of the guards, but I just walk it right out the same side door that I went in, on my way to the boat, and the other agent is waiting for me. And I come around a corner, and he starts shooting me. Basically, he knew, right? It was an ambush.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
He knew I had the briefcase, complete, scripted moment, which is, it was a nice moment, because it totally surprised me. I might have even jumped as I read, because I thought I was home free, and I wasn't prepared at all. And he got a couple shots. He didn't kill me, luckily, but I took him out, and then I got out of there. But I thought that was a nice moment, because I remember watching on the map as he was, basically, it looked like he was running. I don't know why nobody stopped him, but running out the front door, and then he was getting prepped to ambush me. So,
wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
It's neat. So,
all right, man. Well, why don't we come back and talk about the sort of 4 linked missions that are next after a quick break.
Thick walls and loads of protection. Even the strongest chain has a weak point, and I'll find this one. But I better consider each step I take in this squeaky old castle.
And we're back. We're going to talk over the last 4 levels of the section that we played, which are Tracking Hayamoto through Shogun Showdown. And I kind of, I like, even in level-based games, I really enjoy when they're sort of little narrative arcs like this one. Mm-hmm. These 4 felt like a section. Like, I know we had something like that in Jedi Starfighter, where we had a few missions that kind of tied together. And when I've gone back to play those 2 games, those are literally my 4 favorite missions, just because they tie together like that. Yeah. Anything that ties together in a sort of tight little narrative nugget, I really appreciate. And this one's really, really kind of cool. Why don't you set the stage a little bit?
Yeah, so there's a sort of thread that was introduced during the Russian general section about a missile guidance system that you're looking for, or that the ICA, God, I forgot the acronym for that.
Yep.
Yeah, ICA is looking for, which will maybe come back eventually to Brett's theory of story in the first episode, but I won't speak of it now. Anyway, so this Hayamoto guy has you find out from the previous mission that he has the guidance system, and so but he's gone into hiding, and so people haven't been able to find him. So the first mission in this foursome here is to track down his son and assassinate his son in his own house. But one of the cool things about it is, before you do that, you need to put a tracking device on the body. So assuming that the body will eventually get to a place of rest or a funeral of something, so you can find his father. And so this mission is all about killing the son and kind of placing that tracking device and getting out. And so this is in Japan someplace. I forget exactly where.
Yeah, I don't recall either. That kind of just went over my head. It was clearly in Japan, though.
Yeah. as evidenced by the nice Asian music in this regard, which was a little bit over the top for me, as far as like a little cliche. But
yeah, it's a little much. But yeah, I mean,
it's a good theme. Good theme.
Like almost 15 years ago.
Yeah, and
I think a lot of that stuff tended to be a lot more on the nose. Like I said, in the Russian levels, you definitely had the, I don't know, 50s.
Militaristic. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but definitely with the, you felt like you were playing Tetris.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, you jump, you basically pop over the fence into the grounds of this place, and I think his son's also kind of a Japanese mafia guy, so he's a lot of criminals around guarding him. So, how did you enter in this one?
I think this may be the one that I felt like I did more or less perfectly, kind of off the bat. I mean,
you said that. That sounds.
I had a few false starts, just like, oh, I couldn't see that guy, and so I didn't know that he was there, and so he saw me, and things like that. Just because sometimes in this level in particular, the sort of heavies that guard the house, the interior of the house, are like in white T-shirts, and they're a little less noticeable outdoors. Like I just didn't pick him out of the environment. So like there were a couple guys, I'm like, okay, I see those guys. One of them's in a black suit. There's a white shirt dude. And then there's another guy in a black suit. Okay, good. And I start making my way once I get an opportunity, and there's another guy out there, and I just never saw him. So I was a little more careful with the map after that. But aside from the sort of simple false starts like that, what I ended up doing straight off the bat was I went kind of along the fence into the back entrance to this area, into where the kitchen is. And I went into a room there just to, like I tend to do, like I go into the space, I find a place where I can sit for a moment and just kind of get my bearings and figure out what I'm going to do next.
I'm smiling right now because I know.
You know exactly what happened, right?
I think so, yeah.
And there was this fish. So, I think this is like the intended thing. Like, I don't know how else you would do this mission, to be honest. But it's a fugu fish, which for those who don't know, fugu is the Japanese word, I guess, for blowfish. So I immediately knew what it was. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can make a sushi out of fugu, and this tracking device I'm supposed to put in this guy's body. And actually, that was the thing that keyed me off, because I think in the briefing it actually says in his body,
right? Not
on his body, but in his body. And so that kind of told me right off, like, this is what I've got to do. And it went super smoothly. I mean, I had a few things where like, oh, okay, there's a bunch of people who come into this room. I killed one guard because I thought I might have to deliver the food myself. Turns out I didn't. So it was great. I went, put the stuff together into some sushi plate, and then made my way back out and just kind of like waited near the front entrance until I got the alerts on my machine that he had died. It was great.
Yeah.
This is beautiful.
This is a funny one for that reason, because it is kind of a waiting game.
There was a lot of waiting. In fact, I actually thought, because I was watching on the map and I saw somebody come into where the kitchen was and go back out into the room where he was, and then he didn't die. And then that person went back again. And I'm like, man, maybe I do have to do it. But I just sat and waited, and the second time, I guess that's there basically give players a chance to get there and do it. But it was the second time where it actually happened, which is really funny. I don't know if it just takes time for the poison to work, or I have no idea like what was going on and why I had to wait so long. But it was still really cool to just kind of sit there and watch this thing this thing I had set in motion play out and not have to do anything. On the other hand, that's a lot of waiting to do in a video game. It
is. Yep.
It's a lot of waiting. Because it was like several minutes. For me, it was like 2.5 minutes.
I literally got up. So I said this in the first episode too. It's also, not only is it a murder puzzle, but it's also a patience simulator.
I know.
Because, and this is the ultimate example of that. Yeah, I literally, so I had some, you were mentioning in the previous segment, occasionally the whether it's the simulation or the scripting, kind of they both kind of collide and cause something to happen that maybe isn't intended to happen. And so what I actually ended up happening in the save once I was in the fish room and I was trying to get stuff into the sushi so it would be delivered, he, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's something I did wrong or what have you, the target actually got out of whack and was standing in the corner of the room that he was in rather than sitting at the table eating. And so what I ended up having to do, I had to use, I don't know if this is what I needed to do, but this is how I ended up getting it to work. I ended up putting the tracking device in one of the sushi bowls and the poison in the other sushi bowl. And she comes in twice, right? Like you said. And so once she put the first one down, he went back to the table because I tried putting both of them in the sushi bowl, the first one, just the tracking device and the poisoned fish, and he just wasn't going to the table. I don't know what was going on. Basically, it seemed like, the patrolling got out of whack or something, or I had done some alert that I didn't know about. So I actually had to wait twice because I put one in one and one in the other. And so on the second one, I literally got up and just walked away and did something else.
So you didn't get Silent Assassin on this one either, though?
No, Professional is the only one I've gotten. Yeah.
Yeah, I got Professional on this as well. Now, you must have killed a few people on the way in or something.
I killed 2 people, and I was reading up a little bit on it for this particular game because Silent Assassin changes a little bit for each of the games. And so apparently if you shoot anybody with a gun, you will not get Silent Assassin. But you can kill them with the
fiber wire.
With the fiber wire, yeah. So if you kill them that way, I guess in this game it's okay. In Blood Money, later on, you actually can't do either of those things. And you have to make it look like it was an accident. But this one is a lot more generous.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how generous it is, but I did like.
You can do more killing in this one and still,
Right.
The thing I love about Blood Money when they introduced that is that literally nobody knew you were there. You know what I mean? And you're just
I see how that plays into the fantasy. I mean, that's really pretty good. But it's funny.
Well, the rules are opaque, right? Like you don't know. Right. Like we're having to suss it out just talking to each other and a little bit of research. But we really, truthfully, I'm not even sure why I get professional on stuff. I don't even know what professional means. I know it's one down from Silent Assassin, but that's as much as I know.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of figuring that out. My thinking had been only kill the target. Because that's what I did in Anathema, going back to that.
Yeah, I think that happened. That will work by default. But you can... It sounds like you can kill others in certain ways as well. But
okay. Huh.
I actually killed the chef, I think, in this one to get his costume because I wanted to be able to be in the kitchen and be seen in the kitchen and not give myself away.
Yeah. No, I actually just ended up timing most of that because people come in and out.
Yeah, nice.
But I kind of went in. I got pretty lucky. I did have to kill one guard in there and drag his body out. But other than that, I was, and that was just kind of surprised. Like, oh, hey, there's a guard there. Again, not checking my map as frequently as I should.
Did you get professional on this one?
I did. I got professional on this one. So
I found on the way out. I found in the garage that there's a car on blocks that you could actually honk the horn. I
didn't even go around that way.
So I don't know what that was an exclamation point on the map. So there must be.
Yeah, I mostly ignore those. Yeah, I mostly ignore those, unless there's a specific goal there.
Yeah.
And probably if I were going to go back and play this stuff, in order to figure out things like this, I would do those sorts of things. Those would be the sorts of things I bet you would be doing to try to get achievements or something like that, right? Is visit all the exclamation points in every level or, whatever.
Well, they help you. They basically are telling you the different options to achieve usually they have to do with the objectives.
Right.
And you don't have to use them all, but they usually relate to the critical path as one of the options. And the only thing that's a bummer in this game, and I think the first one, I think they improved this in contracts, but the map is not. Well, you've probably noticed this, but all of those markers on the map is not. They're not layer specific. So if you see an exclamation point and the map actually has multiple floors to it, it's on any of the floors. that exclamation point could be on any of the floors. So you could be standing right on top of one in the map, but you could be on the wrong floor of the building.
Oh no, I didn't notice that.
And you wouldn't see whatever the object is there that you need to use. So FYI on that one. It's frustrating.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean this was like a perfect little puzzle. This was a real pinnacle for me. I mean, I've enjoyed other levels, but this one was the first one, and I guess the embassy to a degree, where I felt like this one wasn't even so much improvisation. It was really just like I came up with a plan, I executed on the plan, and I had a happy accident along the way that, like, I had a feeling that it was going to have something to do with sushi for some reason, right? I was like, it's so culturally, a thing. So I think that was already in my mind. And I picked up on the word in the mission and the mission briefing and like, I don't know. So it all just kind of came into sharp relief. I was less of a fan of the next two levels. Which involve you. So I like how it starts. You see the older, I guess he's a Yakuza or something, but you see this older Japanese gentleman, the crime boss, mourning his son. And
that was a nice moment.
It is nice. And it touches on that sort of somberness that you talk about. It's a very sober game from that standpoint, and kind of melancholy. It's a good moment. And it's got good character. Like, it's shot from the top. So you don't really have to worry about facial animation and stuff like that. But there's a great little animation where the guy's walking back from the grave and he sort of stumbles in his grief, and his henchman reaches out to steady him, and he shakes him off and throws his arms out. It's a great character defining moment for a character that has really it's totally,
I've never seen him before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it's a really good moment of like reinforcing something about this person, that you're about to kill. It's humanizing. I like that a lot. I watch a lot of, like Hong Kong and Japanese cinema and stuff like that. So I love all these sort of crime stories that involve Japanese and then, Japanese Yakuza and then like police who are, undercover. And like, I love all that stuff. So there's lots of character in that. But then you go through these two levels that I really feel like the game is very ill suited for, which is covering huge amounts of terrain, in order to sneak up on this big castle.
Yeah.
And there was parts of it that I enjoyed, but like mostly I only enjoyed once I got to the sort of immediate defenses of the castle and had to turn off these generators. The first of these levels was kind of entirely pointless for me. I don't know. You get a crossbow. It felt sort of like a level that was looking for a new mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a common problem. I mean, I'll kind of widen it out for game development in general, in that you want palette cleansers, you want to change pacing up, you want to try some different things to give players a refreshing take on what they've been playing for a few hours before this. And so you try something different. And there's always an inherent risk in doing that because it may not pay off, right? And to your point, I think you put it well, that they just don't have the systems and mechanics to support this kind of level. So on paper, it probably made a lot of sense, right? But ultimately they should have cut this level. They didn't really need it. They didn't need both of these probably. Like you said,
one or the other would have been fine, but both is way overkill.
Yeah, and we were talking about how some of the scripting breaks down occasionally, and one of my frustrations is on one of the St. Petersburg's levels. I really used the trucks pretty effectively, and
right, yeah.
And so I had intended to do that on the first one of these in the Hidden Valley, and the trucks just were not conducive to that. I don't know if they were glitching out or what the problem was, but I tried multiple times to use them so I could cover more ground, basically, to avoid having to run across everything. And they just would find me every time. So that was frustrating because they taught me in the St. Petersburg levels that I could do that, and then they didn't work in this case. So some inconsistencies there, but basically, yeah, like you said, just not conducive to that until you get to the outside of the complex, which is when the game shines, right? Because you have all of the different orthogonal pieces working together, and you know what your deck, your hand of cards is.
Right, and there's some surprise there. Like it's again like that moment I really liked in the St. Petersburg assassination from across the street, where something changes on the fly. It's you have to take out these two targets, these two generators, to bring down the alarms, basically the defenses for this place. And it turns out there's a third one, and they don't know where it is. So there's a moment of like, oh man, where? I don't know where to go. And that was really good. I did have some weird glitching in characters in that. Like one of the ninjas was just like dancing around outside doing his attacks, like moving around in random ways. It was really strange, but. Aside from that, it was sort of just kind of jankiness from a game you could still have in games of this period. I think like this is kind of the end of that period where a AAA title has that much jank.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that to your point about stealth games, comparing to other stealth games, the other thing that these levels don't do a good. Basically, they put a light on the problem of line of sight and awareness, because the lines of sight are so long and all of the guards are all mixed together in these open, with a little bit of forest, but generally snow drifts. You don't know when they're going to see you. You don't know what the rules are. And so it's really easy.
And there are snipers.
And there are snipers, which are also frustrating. And the rules there are not clear either.
Yeah.
So
I mean, with the snipers, mostly I tried to manipulate myself to be out of line of sight. Yeah. And I would use the binoculars. I'd look at them and like see what their patterns were and stick to the trees. And like, I just basically like I got shot many, many times by the first sniper before I kind of like even figured out where he was. It was like, I don't know what's happening. Like the beginning of this was so frustrating. And those long lines of sight were similarly that. I mean, I felt like this was a level where they wanted you to pick up the cache so you could have the crossbow. Yeah. So you could shoot the crossbow these long distances and have the satisfying, I shot the guy in the head from, 300 yards kind of experience. But I really didn't need or want that. And I could have gone down through the tunnels below, but I went down there at one point, and there were so many guards down there. I was like, I'd have to kill all these. I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm trying. Right? I'm trying to play to this game's strengths. Kind of mowing down, a dozen, guards down underground was not in a very linear fashion. Was not what I was looking for. So yeah, kind of a shame. These two levels in particular just really. They stand out like a bit of a sore thumb. And I totally get it. Like, here they are trying something different. But, yeah, the rules really break down. And because there is no feedback, you can't see what the cones are. I spent a lot of time, like, getting myself to a point and, like, creeping along and then having somebody see me from this insane distance. Who I couldn't even see, like on the screen. Like I could look on the map, right? But I couldn't actually see them, and they were seeing me, and I'm like, okay, I guess I start over. I did that a lot, especially in the second of these two levels. So I don't want to belabor them too much. It was really satisfying figuring out that the ninjas were up in the rafters. And just shooting them in the head from a distance, and knocking them down. I kind of like that. So those were good moments just because it was like, it was like shooting fish in a barrel or something. But that was pretty funny. It was like, I don't know, what is it? Is it Octopussy, I think, that has the ninja who drips poison down the wire? It reminded me of that.
Oh no, I know.
James Bond movie. I think it's Octopussy.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And so I mean, I like the setting a lot, and I like the enemies. The next level, the final level, where you find and kill the Shogun. I have no idea how I would do this as a silent assassin.
Me neither.
And in fact, I spent a lot of time just getting into the building. I only stumbled across the secret door by accident. Did you find that at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I could not figure out how you're supposed to get through that courtyard. And then, yeah, you're talking about the wooden door that goes into the
yeah. And I actually can be fairly forgiving of that, because I think, I mean, once you sort of take away the idea that you're going to kind of go and play this thing on the first blush, like once you drop that constraint as a player, once you're forgiving it for the fact that you can't just go and play through, and you're going to have to learn things as you go and then use what all you've learned, like thinking of it as the murder puzzle, as you said. I kind of forgave it, because what I was doing with those two, there to set the stage, there's a stairway up into the main compound, and you're coming from a room before that. And on either side of that staircase above you are these two guards. And as soon as you cross the plane of the staircase beginning, they see you and they start shooting. So what I found myself doing was edging up along that, right up to where that line was, and trying to get off a shot at their heads.
Yeah, me too.
Right? But that's what made me discover the secret door. Right? Because I pressed right up against it, and then it was like open door. I'm like, open door? Oh, cool. And then it was kind of a cool moment, right? But it took, several times of trying. I thought I was going to be fighting my way through that whole building. It didn't turn out that way, but I don't know. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good little piece of level design there with that.
Yeah. Good kind of like within the constraints they have. It is a way to kind of force you into that area. I think you can probably shoot your way through there. But once I discovered that, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then the other thing I really liked is they have kind of a nightingale floor. The wooden floors that sing. So you can't move around in these buildings without making noise, which I thought was pretty cool too.
So on that, well, I was trying to think if there was that one room at the top of the stairs beyond the secret door.
Yep.
I don't think I found another one of those creaking rooms. I feel like that was a mechanic that they'd used just once. And I kind of wish they would have used it more. But then did you notice that if you walk on the beams, you're okay?
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah. So but I kind of wanted to do that more, but the upper levels that also seemed to be wooden, but were a different texture, so I assume they weren't the same. I didn't have any creaking issues. So
there was another room you could find that also was behind a secret door. That also had a squeaking floor.
Oh, okay. I must have just not found. I definitely didn't explore the whole castle. But
there wasn't, as far as I could tell, any consequences. I mean, I killed all the 3 guards in that one room with the first squeaking floor. So I think maybe those were the guys who were going to respond to the other one. I don't really know what happened there. But I did, I thought that was okay. The one thing this level didn't pay off for me, was, you've got all these literally paper thin walls, walls made out of paper on these multiple levels of I guess basically a pagoda. And you can't shoot through them.
You know what? I didn't even try. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I tried because I wanted. So as you make your way up, as you make your way up, It was fine because it kind of leads to this tension. You have to go through these different rooms. But I made my way up to a level near the top, and you run across this character who appears to have been from the prior game.
Yeah, she is, yeah.
And so they're talking about stuff that's happened in the past in the cutscene. Well, right before that, there's a room with like a maid or something, and she runs out screaming as soon as you open the door. I think that's probably because I was dressed as a ninja or something like that, so she probably freaked out because I was a ninja dude or whatever, but okay. I would have liked for that to not respond in that way, but my plan, given that she was going to respond that way, was I was just going to shoot her through the window or through the paper, so that she wouldn't run off and alert anyone, and she wouldn't scream and do all that stuff. I have no idea what I could have done on this level to make it any different than what it was. I mean, I guess I could have maybe choked out the first guard that I didn't, and maybe I killed a few people differently, but I felt like I killed a fairly minimal number of people to get through this. How did you escape this building?
Oh man, it was a mess. All of my years of Hitman training and skills did not come into play. And some of it was frustration and kind of not really sure what to do about it. I guess with that particular lady, she does go on patrol. So I was able to kind of walk right by her as a ninja while she was on patrol. And I think she still ran away from me, but apparently she didn't go alert anybody. So I don't know. I was fully expecting her to actually go and find somebody and tell them, but it didn't seem to happen, or I finished it in time for it not to matter. But by the time I got to that level, I think you're like 2 levels below the mark.
Right.
Go up 1 level. I kind of just walked by the guys with almost alerting them, but not quite alerting them. Walked by those 3 in the next one, went up, and basically caught him while his back was to me. So I was able to shoot him. But of course, as soon as you do that, were the ninjas in the rafters always up there?
Yes.
Okay.
You can't see them though.
Oh, okay. So I didn't.
So it's unlike the other rooms in that there are rafters, but it's like there's an attic up there. So it's not just rafters. There's wooden sections of the ceiling.
I see.
You can't see them. You couldn't like come in and shoot each of them in the head and make your way out.
Well, I think this is another example of them trying to create, a big moment out of something that the game really isn't good at. And so I shot him. They've come down out of the ceiling. Everyone's swinging swords and doing their dance. And I ran out the window at that point, and they're all still back in the room swinging their swords and doing their dances. I never had them follow me, but of course,
they can't make their way out the window. Yeah.
At that point, everybody's on alert. And so I did actually go back and return to the lady and, basically trigger her to follow me so I could save her. So I did get her out.
I didn't think to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because on the
he does say to do it, and I just forgot.
Well, there's another window you can jump back into on your way down the rooftops.
Right, that's right opposite her room. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just did that to see. I don't know if it made a difference. There wasn't a stat at the end. I don't think that said that I'd saved a pedestrian or something. But anyway, ran through there, and then somewhere along the way picked up an SMG because I just was my pistol was not doing it, and then I just shootered my way through the end and got out of there. So got a mass murder on this one just because I wasn't going to go through and try to figure out a way to save her. And I don't know how you'd get into that courtyard. I don't remember how I did this in the past, but I don't remember how you could get out of that courtyard with a silent assassin. There's got to be a way. But
so I went back the way I came and went through those secret doors and went out the front door.
Oh, so you didn't take the helicopter?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well,
it did not occur to me that I could take the helicopter.
I thought for some reason that was the only way you could get out of there. So it was dramatic.
I ran right out,
for sure.
I ran right out the front door.
Okay. Well, that's how you do it then. Duh.
Yeah. But I wasn't silent by any means. I also jumped out the window. I died a lot of times in that room before I did that. I will say what I didn't like about this was it is very linear.
Yeah.
As you're gonna, maybe some of the lower levels are not, because you could conceivably, I guess, kill the guy first and get the device second. But what I found was I really only had one path, because you got to go all the way up to the top. Like, that's all you can do. One of the times I tried to shoot my way out, I had this SMG and just shot everybody as they were coming up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I think I could have left the building that way, but I became curious about that window. And what really bugged me was there was no way back. Like, you couldn't play going up through that window.
Yeah.
Which would have been really nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that would have been a really nice alternate route. In fact, I went all the way down there, and I kind of lost track of where it ended up. And so I reloaded just to see if I could figure out where that window was. And it's above a chest of drawers or something like that. So you can't get to it because you can't climb. So yeah, I was kind of bummed about that. I was, it would have been cool to be able to kind of go up there and maybe like reach in and pull a guy out the window so he falls or whatever. There was a lot that kind of wish fulfillment didn't quite work out there. But
yeah, too linear. They were crafting this one a little bit too much.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like you went from this really, really open space with these super long view distances to this like tightly linear space. It's a really weird contrast. I think it actually might have played better had I not had those wide open spaces immediately before it.
Yeah, they show that contrast. Yeah, that's a good point.
It was just very stark,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we take another quick break? We've been about another half hour, and then we'll just have a quick wrap up and talk about what we're doing next time.
Sounds good.
Sound good? And back just here for the end, we want to catch you up with, if you're playing along, what you should be playing for next time. We're going to start next discussion with episode/level 11, which is called Basement Killing. And we're going to go through number 16, which is called Tunnel Rat. Not Total Rat, as I misread. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that my theories of the story are bearing much fruit at this point. I had thought things would be tying together a little bit more, but I did really like the diversion this time into Japan, and I'm kind of curious where we're going to go next, because it feels like I don't know what the next lead is at this point. Do you have? You've played this game before, so you probably have a sense.
It's foggy memory on this stuff, and it's an interesting series because, to your point about kind of story stuff, other than Absolution, which the one right before this latest one that just came out, the story is weird. I mean, it weaves in and out of some of the levels, and there's some consistency, and there's, like we talked about in the first episode, there's kind of an overarching macro story to things. But when it comes to like mission to mission to mission, they never really seem to have tried very hard to do a lot of linking. To your point about like the last 4 levels we played, they do a good job at kind of theming a few levels in a row. But other than that, like kind of having a good thematic story arc throughout a game, I never remember, other than Absolution, having much of that going on. It just doesn't seem to be their focus.
Yeah,
it's all kind of within the levels.
Yeah, it's interesting. These games feel close to being possibly procedurally generated in a way.
Interesting.
Not at the time. I don't think it would have been a thing you could have done at the time. But it sort of has a feel like there's these rules about where things can be and stuff like that. Like, there was an old game on like Amigas and Apple IIs and stuff called Spy versus Spy. It was based on the Mad comic.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
right, and that was lightly procedurally generated, in the sense that the different objects could be in different places, and the room layouts weren't prescribed. They had a limited number of pieces that they were fitting together because of memory limits and things like that at the time. But, fundamentally, there were sort of these rules and patrols, and like the AI played a certain way. It was sort of like a real-time board game, more than it was an environment like this. But, it had a similar sort of feel where you had, these tools that you could use, and here are the tools that the designers use are things like patrol paths and lines of sight. There's a lot of geometry work, I guess, and the theming kind of ties in a lot. Like, I loved the theming of, that Fugu level, and you can't do that stuff procedurally. So I think you would probably lose something. But on the other hand, like some of the mechanical stuff feels like you probably could, generate some interesting stuff. I know that they're experimenting with, or they've made the new game a big part of this, to have like user-generated content in terms of try to kill this person in this way.
Yeah.
Sort of stuff where they've still designed in all the, all the disguises you can have and all the weapons you can have and all that stuff. And they're kind of letting players explore all those combinations, I guess, rather than generating them themselves. You feel like you could almost just generate that stuff just by looking at a couple of tables and say, okay, kill person X using weapon Y, wearing disguise Z, or whatever.
Yeah, they have a good toolbox, that they've built up over the years. That's, I think, been refined. They actually had some of that user-generated stuff in Absolution too, the last one. And challenges, everyone's looking for ways to kind of, extend playtime, out of stuff and kind of get user-generated stuff in there.
Yeah,
and it's pretty clever way for them. And then apparently, I really want to jump in before we're done with this series and into the new one, so I can kind of do some comparisons. But because it's episodic, and because each of the episodes, they have a lot of different layers of things you can do in one space, which is one of the things I love about the series, is that going back in and trying things differently. Usually, and this one maybe not as much so because it's one of the earlier ones, but you can really get a lot of playtime out of the different ways to accomplish your goals. And it sounds like in the new one, they really support and encourage you to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when I think about procedurality, maybe that's even part of what I'm thinking about. It's not like constructing the whole environment procedurally, but more like taking an environment and really richly simulating everything that's going on with it, but maybe just doing that part procedurally. So you put interesting items in different areas. That means guard patrols change because, they're going to make sure that they cycle near the important objects or whatever they are, whatever the MacGuffins are. I could see sort of doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's something I've wanted to experiment with, in game development myself, of just like, hey, take an AI and have it generate some paths that make sense, that touch, that create these webs of coverage, for a space.
Well, based on weighting and, the weighting of an importance of an object and threat levels and things like that. Yeah, it's a really cool idea. I feel like I can't think of it, but there's an indie game that
I think in Monaco.
Maybe, but that wasn't procedural, right? Was it?
I haven't played it, so I can't.
I didn't finish it, but I played through with some friends. Amazing game co-op, by the way. Like Monaco, we should play it sometime. It's really
I've heard it is. Yeah,
I don't think it's procedural, but there is a lot of systemic stuff going on that has a lot. The AI specifically, but I can't think of the game, but it's similar to Monaco in its kind of tone that I thought maybe was procedural. But to your point, I think it's a great idea for this kind of genre to do something more procedural.
Yeah, seems like it's possible. Or maybe you're thinking the Swindle.
Oh, maybe so.
That's definitely procedurally generated. That's
which I haven't played. That
a roguelike, like whatever they're calling it these days.
Got it. Okay, I should check that out then.
Well, I'm getting to the point where I'm punchy.
Yes,
I think we should call it a night, and we will see you in a week to play through the next 6 levels of Hitman 2. Thanks for joining us. You can find us at DevGameClub or devgameclub@gmail.com. Hit us up. I'd love to read some reader mail on the cast. I'm at Brett_Duville on Twitter, and you are?
Tim Longo Jr. at Tim Longo Jr. with the GR at the end on Twitter.
Okay. Great. Thanks a lot. And we'll talk to you next time. Night, Tim.
See ya.